Good Saturday morning, Church of the Cross. I hope you're well wherever you find yourself. Just want to share some thoughts with you. First of all, I just want to thank you, all of you who've been praying for me the last week and a half. As I shared last week, even got a chance to share this past Sunday. Many of you know my father died last week. We are on the way, leaving early this morning to travel to Virginia to bury my father next to my mother up in Danville, Virginia, where he grew up in our family plot. Anyways, I was sharing with people this past week, and I want to share with you again. It's often a conversation I find myself in, but I found myself this past week talking to some young people who are away at college for the first time, experience homesickness. And one of the conversations I was having with somebody is a conversation I had just about a month ago with somebody who, and not only their lives, but my life as well, is that no matter what any of us are going through, it's very often to look around the world, to look around society, to look at the injustice that many people are experiencing, we ourselves have experienced, and to get really angry and upset and to feel, a sense sometimes of how in the world is God moving in these events, and how in the world can this be right? Where it seems like or feels like there's injustice happening and people are getting away with it. And one of the things I remind people, and often remind myself, is probably one of the most well-known verses in the Bible. You've probably heard many sermons preached on it. I've certainly referred to it. Is Romans 8:28, where it talks about all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. I'm very careful to point out to people there, it says all things work together for good. It does not say that all things are good. Therefore, we cannot look at incredible injustice and think that's necessarily a good thing. What we can say is through God's hand and through God's providence, that at the end of time, when we are with Christ and we are on the right side of history being with Christ, we can look back in our lives, no matter how bad it's gotten, and we can say that all things that God allowed, even the things we can't make sense of, God allows those things in such a way to get us to the moment he wanted to get us to. So all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And maybe the greatest biblical example is the one we find in the Old Testament with Joseph, who was betrayed by his family, was sold into slavery, was jailed unjustly, and yet it was, a decade and a half later, he's standing before his own brothers saying, what you meant for evil, God took those very things and used them for good to bring about, God's hand, God's providence. Anyways, I was having this conversation with a young person last week. I sent them a video of obviously, I've talked many times about the Lord of the Rings. I think Tolkien was taking biblical themes and putting them into his narrative. And we see this over and over and over again. And one of the most moving scenes, I think, in the book, and the movie kind of bears this out, is that Frodo was coming to, he's carrying this ring that really is going to destroy the world. And he's got to throw it into Mount Doom to be able to destroy it. Really, the ring is representative of many, many things. But it certainly was something that was being used for evil by many people, and he has to get rid of this thing. And of course, he gets this ring, and he realizes that it is killing him. And he's watching people he loves die, and he's watching all the suffering happen. And he basically says a prayer. He says, "I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had ever happened." And he suddenly recalled a conversation that he heard from Gandalf, that Christ-like figure. He remembered a conversation about never wanting to have this ring, and Gandalf saying, the ring was given to you for a reason. And even though you do not want to be carrying this burden for whatever reason, you have to carry it. So do all who live to see such times. It's not for us to decide what this means, but rather what we need to do with it. And therefore, why I think, and I'm going to play this at the end of this video for you to see it, why I think that's important is that we're going to have all sorts of things that are going to happen to us. a lot of wonderful things and a lot of things that are not so wonderful. The question to ask ourselves is not so much why is this happening, but how does God want to use those things in our lives to use that in a way where we can shine a light on the gospel, how God can bring us through anything, whether it's death, whether it's injustice, whether it's something that's incredibly unfair, because that was what will separate us from the world who believes we should answer things with violence or an eye for an eye. That's not the story of the gospel. It's not the story of Jesus, and it should not be the story in our lives. That we know and we believe, and I've certainly upheld this, and I'm learning this more every day, that when Romans talks about all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose, it means what it says. And therefore, I just want to, implore you and encourage you, wherever you find yourself here on this Saturday morning in September, know that your own life, that all the things that you and I are going through, and we're watching around the country and we're experiencing our own lives, it is not for nothing. God is using those very things. It may take a long, long time for we're able to even see the good that's coming out of those things. It may even take us to get to the other side of eternity when we're with Christ. Make no mistake about it. We are going to see it. And it's going to be a glorious thing. And we will say to God, I know you said these promises, and I can now say the promises are being answered and have been answered. And because of that, we'll give thanks to that. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you. I'll be back next week over the historic campus, Lord willing, and I look forward to seeing so many of you. Until then, you're in my prayers. God bless, and I love you very, very much. Bye.
I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.